welcome to another episode of Entrepreneurship Decoded. I'm so excited for you guys to meet Bryce today. Got to meet him a couple weeks ago and now just get to share his story and what he does. So Bryce, how are you doing today?
I'm cruising. I'm doing fantastic. This is a great activity for a Monday. So thank you, Alex. I appreciate being here.
Yeah, of course. I love it as well. So we'll just dive right in. I would love to hear your story of who you were before you found entrepreneurship and then just that journey or the aha moments that came up to that point in your life.
Cool. Well, I'm the kind of person that never planned on being an entrepreneur. Honestly, before I started my business, I had absolutely no desire to do it whatsoever. I've had a few friends. I've had some members of my own family do it, and I've seen the incredible amount of work required. And I had other dreams, other visions, and I spent the majority of those dreams and visions pursuing them. I was in the entertainment industry here in Salt Lake for almost 10 years, a good number of years. And that's what my first degree is in, digital film and video production. I wrote a book after that, and then it wasn't until I had an opportunity in a little side venture that all of a sudden creating a business didn't sound so horrible and difficult and nasty, and it seemed like an important thing and a lot of fun. And well, believe it or not, here I am.
Love it. Short and sweet. You get to just go over what you did. And I'm curious to know how, so you said you were in the event planning business, or is that you were more just like creating events?
I not events. I apologize if I mumbled. Maybe our connection is a little rough, but not events. I was in the entertainment industry. So I made movies, and I did both in front of and behind the camera work. I got started acting, and then many years later, I wanted to round myself out to get some more jobs. So I learned how to do stuff behind the camera, and that's what I did for the majority of my professional career up to this point.
That's awesome. Yeah, I guess I heard events for some reason. So
It's okay. So I would clarify.
yeah. So yeah, entertainment. That's very interesting. So then you said you kind of found something that led you to think, business isn't all that bad. So when you started entrepreneurship, what were kind of the main challenges, obstacles that you had to go through and what you had to learn to get to where you are right now?
I like that question. There's a lot to it. So let's see if we can hit all the points, or as many points as we can in the explanation. The moment that I really jumped in to the idea of entrepreneurship happened a few years involved in this side, not venture, but the side hobby. I was volunteering at a local high school in a coach capacity. So I've been a improviser and improvisational comedian for over 12 years now. And it's something that I love to do. And if you would like, we can talk about the beginnings of that at a future question. But I was coaching these high school kids, and I did that for 5 years up until this year. And about year 2 or 3, I took a moment to step back and actually look at what had been done. Why was I still there? Was I enjoying myself? Were the kids enjoying themselves? Were either of us getting anything out of it? And I had a moment for me where I saw how much I was gaining by not only being a teacher, but by being a teacher in a capacity with young people. I don't know if have you had the opportunity to teach something that you know or you think you know, and then when you're involved in that environment, you really get to understand how much you know. And there's an enormous amount of growth possible as a teacher. Have you had that opportunity before?
I don't think I've had the opportunity where I shared something or taught something and then realized that like, oh, I know a lot of stuff. I guess when it comes to different ideas like mindset, perspective, and knowing the traits that it takes to be a leader. I think I could talk about that for days, just knowing from the different experiences I've had. But I think like a specific skill or specific type of knowledge, I haven't had the chance to really teach it or to know if I know more about it than I think I do.
Well, I'm sure those opportunities are going to come up for you. I almost have no doubt. And when they do, um, you'll have moments like that where you'll take a step back and you'll be like, "Huh, I did not see that coming, and I didn't know that as well as I thought, or I knew that a lot better than I thought." But it's not only this moment of self-reflection; it's then taking what you know or you think you know, as we've presented the different sides of the spectrum, and now you have to present them to another person, and this other person doesn't think like you, they don't feel like you, they don't express like you, and so now it becomes a not necessarily a compromise of these two different positions, but it becomes how do we establish that communication, how do we bridge it and then use it, put some miles on that extension and really make it what it can be. And so when you teach a group of kids like high school kids or youth in general, there's not a whole lot of experience, but there's a whole lot of desire and there's a whole lot of excitement and energy and passion, which is really, it is really cool to be in the midst of stuff like that. So as I watched what these kids were doing with what I was teaching and how I was teaching it, I was really humbled and I was very impressed with the kids. And I thought, there's something more to this than just teaching comedy. And if that answers your question, we can move on. But that leads to another question too. But you let me know where we headed next.
No, yeah, I'd love for you to elaborate more on that and how you think um, that, I don't know if that's necessarily a challenge, but kind of a aha moment where you said that it was more than just a comedy, but it was the fact that the kids they didn't have the experience, but they had the passion, they had the drive to learn more about it. That How did that lead to more of a challenge towards your entrepreneurship journey?
Yes, thank you. The challenge. I forgot about the challenge. So when things happen by accident, we love those moments. We love the happy accidents. We hate the bad ones. We love the good ones. And happy accidents are unique in that most of the time we don't go looking for them. They just happen, right? So after a happy accident has occurred, if you want to duplicate it, therein lies the first challenge. Something that happened naturally, now you're trying to exert some force of will or this effort of control or something along those lines to make it real. And for me, this is perfectly exemplified in the fact that, one, improvisation is seen with a certain stigma or intimidation. Most people recognize improv from the TV show Whose Line Is It Anyway? Have you watched that or heard of that at all?
Yes, I have. I love that show growing up.
Excellent. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. I watch their reruns and the highlights on YouTube all the time. I love it. And so when people think of improv, most of the time that's what they associate with. And there's intimidation because, one, it's on a stage in front of millions of viewers. Two, these people who are up there performing make it look effortless and they're hilarious. And we're like, I could never do that. I'm just not that person. So that's the first challenge, is overcoming this intimidation of the idea of improv. But two, it's presenting in a business mindset improv as a helpful tool, as something that helps us not only overcome ourselves, but it improves our relationship qualities, improves our communication skills. It helps us really experience in real time what trust looks like, both towards ourselves and towards others. It helps with confidence, creativity. There's a whole host of things, but it's helping people understand that and getting that message across, as opposed to it's just comedy and it has no inherent value. So something that happens just naturally with a group of kids, now I'm attempting to take this on a much bigger scale, introduce this to a much broader and wider audience, and get it into business to help with sales improvement, team building improvement, all of those plus the previous things I've mentioned, and then see if I can get some more youth workshops and get some more kids developing stuff like this and really finding a sense of self. So those are the biggest challenges right now.
Oh yeah, I totally, that's the first thing that comes to my mind is improvisation, because I think I took a drama class like my first year of high school, and I was terrified because it's like you have to come up with stuff on the spot, and it's crazy. I'm like, I can't do this. But you talk about it and it's like you're going through that every single day. You're improvising basically. We talked about it like every moment, or almost every moment, just a bunch of decisions you have to make during the day. You're improvising based on the information that you have. So I think that's interesting the way you talk about that. You kind of mentioned, I'd love to kind of hear your perspective on this, but going back to like the kids you talked about, and you said they don't have experience, but they have the drive, the passion, desire to want to learn more. Do you think that's a better trait to have? Because I know there's different jobs, different parts of entrepreneurship that needs knowledge and skill, but do you think it's a great important thing to have, especially as a leader, entrepreneur, to have that drive, that passion, even if you don't know much about what you're going into?
Well, yes, I think all the skills you just mentioned, all the ideas are inherently valuable, absolutely and without question. What I think is more valuable, though, than just having those is what you're willing to do with them. I believe in a very active application and pursuit of certain things. And the idea of a virtue or the idea of self or talent, it's not just good enough on its own, because everybody has something they're good at, which I love. But it's how are we pursuing an effort to bring those together or to master, one or two, or express one or two. So this might be a side note, but I'm hoping that it ties into what you just asked. Something that I experienced and I observed. I can't say I experienced because I'm not a high school student anymore. But when I was teaching the kids, I observed a lot where they were not being treated as potential adults. Instead, they were continuously treated as children. And there are so many arguments from a biological standpoint, a psychological standpoint, that supports the idea that high school kids just are not all the way mature yet. And I'm not arguing or refuting that at all. But my counterpoint to this is that if we continue to treat people as they are, instead of as we believe they could be, and then help foster that belief and provide opportunities for these children or these people or adults, it doesn't, age doesn't really matter to this idea, but the high school kid is a good example of this. If we don't create an environment or foster the opportunities for them to practice adulthood, then by the time they reach 18, they don't magically transform into this high functioning individual. And it's hard for me to watch how so many high school kids that they want to have that ability, but they're constantly being told that they're still children. And so how do we help this? How do we provide the opportunities to gain some kind of experience and to start to incorporate this more mature thinking and this mature approach to life? And that's, ironically enough, improv comedy, getting up and basically doing nothing, just goofing off and having a good time, is a great reinforcement for that. Because when you take away a script from somebody, when you take away somebody's, I don't know, lifeline might be a little extreme, but their comfort zone, a person is just left with themselves. They have nobody else to rely on. They have nothing else to rely on. And so if you're put up on stage or in a scene where all of a sudden your ideas are the ones you have to go with, your feelings are the ones you have to build off of, that can be a very terrifying experience for a lot of people. But improv helps us get comfortable with ourselves. And then once we learn that, then we realize that we've had a partner with us the whole time. And now we can learn what it's like to move forward with a partner, to express some trust and support for them as we hope they're doing to us. I don't want to devolve too far, but so yeah, the values of passion and drive, and then knowledge and ability, education, I think they're all valuable, but it's what we do with it that I think is more important.
No, yeah, I completely agree with that, because people say knowledge is power. It's more applied knowledge is power when it comes to that, because we could have all the knowledge in the world, but it's determined on what actions we take and what we do with that knowledge that becomes the power, the influence. So I think that's a great topic as well. But yeah, great. I love that. So you mentioned this, we could talk a little bit more about it, but how did you get into improv? And then you probably tied into your business and what you're doing today.
Excellent. So let me just say real quick, I realize I haven't said it yet. The name of my business is called Finding Parallels. And I chose that name because that's what I hope it does, is I hope it creates a perspective of parallels between, oh, wow, I do that here, or I never thought about it, from this perspective or from this pursuit, or, that kind of an idea. So finding parallels. And the principle of it is I don't teach people how to be funny, because improv is not about being funny. Improv is just about making things up on the spot. There can be dramatic improv, there can be comedic improv, there's dark improv, there's light improv. I mean, it can go any way you want. So the skills that are associated with somebody who can improvise, everybody has those and practices those to some degree or another every single day. So all I'm proposing to do is bring an awareness to those and establish those a lot more clean and a lot more clear. And if comedy is involved, awesome. Everybody loves to laugh, but not everybody's funny, and that's okay. And not everybody's going to be up on stage. That's okay. So it's an important difference that I hope helps with the intimidation factor. But how I got started, I was in high school and I was a junior, and there was a gentleman who was with a professional troupe here in Salt Lake, and he was jumping around to a bunch of different high schools offering like a 2-hour one-time workshop. I forget how long it was, and any school that was interested, we could form our own team, our own group, and we could continue practicing. And then he would allow 2 teams to come head to head on their stage where they performed up in the heart of Salt Lake. And we got to raise a little bit of money for our schools that way. It wasn't a whole lot, but it was just a lot of fun, because we'd get, our friends and our group together, and we'd laugh and giggle, and we'd play and practice these games, and then we'd get to perform in front of an audience. And, when the audience would laugh at what we're doing, we loved it. It was an amazing feeling. And after high school, I was out of improv for maybe 3-4 years. And I got back into improv because I had just gone through a divorce. And it was another accident, very similar to how I ended up in theater in high school, just complete accident. But when I started going back and participating in the workshops, which was now being held by another group in Draper, I realized how much I missed it and how much fun it was, but also how therapeutic. I get a lot of healing from improv and from comedy, just the nature of how it works and who I'm with. It's a necessary part of my life. I reinvested in improv when my mom died. I reinvested in improv after my divorce from my first marriage. And I've known a lot of people who have found improv due to similar circumstances, but then stay because it heals those wounds, and it lifts them and raises them up higher than they were before. So that was my start in improv as a high school kid, and then getting back into it after, emotional trauma and emotional hardship. So, yeah, 12 years later, here we are.
12 years later. That's awesome.
12 years later.
Yeah. So cool. I think through different experiences that everyone has, I think just finding a way to relieve that pressure or stress or any type of negative feeling through different things like that. So I think that's awesome. You were able to find something that allowed you to just find yourself again and kind of relay what frustrations and anything else you may have. Because yeah, so that's awesome. So you talked a little bit about your business, finding parallels, and just improvisation of that. Do you want to go into more detail of exactly what your business is, and then like who you tailor to specifically, and what kind of value you bring every day?
I would love to. Thank you. So first, there are two groups that I have a desire to cater to, as you put it. The first is business, primarily because the idea of morale, team building, improving sales, improving the ability to work with each other, to navigate, to open up communication avenues, all these things, like those are standard practices of business, right? And some people are better at it than others. That's just the natural course of things. Excuse me. But what I provide and the value that I offer is a personal perspective on how you as an individual approach these elements and where you currently exist within them. An example would be in improv awareness scene, there are what I've broken down to 4 basic responses that you get. So improviser 1 gives an offering, or they make a statement or something to improviser 2, and improviser 2 can respond 4 different ways. It's no, no but, yes, or yes and. And then based off of those 4 responses, improviser 1 understands how this is going to go, at least initially, because naturally things change. Things can change. So there's value in recognizing elements of communication, but especially how you communicate. Are you a no person? Are you a no but? Are you a yes? Are you a yes and? When are these 4 responses appropriate in business? Because I believe that all 4 play an important part in life, and it's knowing how to use them, like a knife or a pair of chopsticks. They serve purposes, and if you know how to use them, then their value goes up, and the efficiency and the result increase. Also, in terms of how to relate to people, this is probably the biggest one, and it's one of my favorites because everything is a relationship. The things that you personally love, Alex, you can take a minute to think about them. Your hobbies. Why have you chosen your hobbies over others, maybe a friend's? Why do you have an inclination towards certain aspects as opposed to others? It's because you have a particular relationship with those things, or you have a desire for a particular relationship with those things. So things and people, ideas, feelings, they're really no different. And in improv, this is one of the coolest parts about an improv show, because we don't have a script and we have a live audience, and the audience is different every single show, and our show's different every single time. So the most important thing for us as as performers to do is find a way to connect with our audience, to relate to them and with them, and then present material that they can relate with themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if we can learn what it's like to relate and then to work on that relationship in real time, that's, to me, invaluable. and who doesn't want to find a better way to relate? So, and then there's just the idea of confidence, of learning how to make choices, how to be comfortable with the choices that you make. But ultimately, it breaks down to self. This approach of where you are currently, where you would like to be, and then a unique, fun training and tool set to help you get there, as opposed to just your standard, we're going to go listen to somebody lecture, for an hour. My workshops are interactive. People are up working with each other, practicing. We're playing improv games with each other. And it's it's intimidating. I acknowledge that. It's awkward, but that's part of what makes it so successful, because this is a different environment that most people don't experience. And when we allow ourselves to go just outside of, or be willing to explore even further outside of that comfort zone, we discover all sorts of things. So that's the first group. The second group are kids, specifically high school aged kids and youth. With the work that I did with this high school and how much fun we had and what I saw happening in these young people, particularly their maturity level increased, their ability to handle difficult situations increased, how they communicated with themselves increased, and then continue that communication to their peers, their teachers, the parents, if they have a job. So their sense of self, which is vital to a high school kid, improved dramatically. And it makes me very happy to say that. It's weird to think that I facilitated that, because they did most of the work, if not all of the work. I was just there to offer an opportunity. And so that was part of the humbling experience of it. But I hope to offer that to more kids. And in my experience, middle school kids, if they're closer to ninth grade, they can understand these concepts. But any younger than that, it's really, improv is just goofing off. It's just an excuse to be ridiculous, which, that's awesome. But in terms of learning these types of skills, being cognizant and aware of them, high school kids are very cognizant, and they grabbed onto them really, really well. So those are the two demographics that I want to hit.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember we talking about that a little bit more from our last time, and just I think both those groups, they might be the ones that need the most improvisation, because like businesses, they need to grow that skill, because that's so many different things that can happen, just like even from these past 7 months, just the unpredictability of everything. You need that, the improvisation of it to just keep going, to pivot and everything. And then with high school kids, definitely, I just graduated high school, and I probably have more of self-identity than most kids, but I totally understand the process of, not knowing basically anything, and, being treated like a child, and you're just like, you know what, I'm ready for it. Just having that stereotype is hard to go with. So I love that you're able to do that, and just kind of give them the opportunity to see their potential, and then how they can use that throughout their life. That's amazing. That's priceless, especially when it comes to that.
Well, thank you. And yeah, I would say you handle yourself very maturely. I figured you're at least 2 to 3 years out of high school, but if you just graduated, then awesome. Congratulations, you made it through.
Yeah, no, I just did. So that was definitely a weird year, but anyway.
Indeed it was.
Awesome. Yeah, so I love how you talk about your business, everything you've gone through, and even some of your successes. Like, I can tell your passion with what you do, and how, you even said it heals you. So I think write me if I'm wrong, but you want to help other people figure out how to heal themselves if they need be, or just help figure out confusion and almost a sense of loss in their life. So I think when you talk about that, I can really tell your passion with that, and how it just helped you, so you want to help others. Am I right with that?
You are, and I appreciate that you've just painted me in like this saint-like light. I would have to say that it's definitely not as as what you just described. I I would like to clarify that I don't have a desire to save, because I don't necessarily feel like that's within my power to do so. I do, however, feel very much like I have the ability to present and to love and to support and um, to work with people, uh, because I have seen the healing other people have gone through. I have heard other people express what it provides, and then I've experienced myself. I've seen it in others. It's not so much that like all this I have all the keys and I have all the answers. No, it's not so profound. It's really simple and it's really easy. It's if you want to put in the work, this is a place to do it. And you will have an advocate in me. You will have somebody in your corner. And I can't say that I know exactly what you're going through, but I can say that I do know hard things and I've overcome hard things. And I know that laughter is a particular medicine for darkness and difficult times. There's a reason people pay money to go watch somebody on a stage telling jokes. It's because it brings light back into our life. So I, I get, you're very kind to paint me so well, but I'm not a saint. I've seen something in an environment that I know very well, and I would like to offer that to anybody who is interested.
Yeah.
But
No, and I appreciate your transparency as well, because I like to do that with other people, just picture them in a perfect way. But we're all human. We all have our reasons. We're doing business for monetary reasons, but we also have a passion for it to possibly help others. So there's different aspects. You can have the cynical side of it, but you can also kind of see the more positive outcomes that come with what you do and why you do it. So yeah, I love that. So just, I guess, well, I usually ask a question as the last question, but I would love to just give the floor to you for you to say anything that you want to say about your business, what you do, or just anything else you would like to say.
Cool. Well, thank you. The only things I can think of left to say are one, thank you very much. It's always, I'm always very grateful to people that will share some of their time to let me talk about what I do. And if there's any way I can reciprocate, please let me know. I plan to, don't necessarily know how, but that's always the goal. So thank you, first and foremost. Two, I appreciate that people are willing to listen to what I have to say and hear something that I enjoy doing and that I hope other people enjoy hearing about and want to participate in. Being a new business, I'm a little over a year old with some spots on and off during that year for particular difficulties. COVID has made things difficult, but I am able to hold digital workshops. So if your business, if you have a group or a team that you're interested in having something like this for, I can hold workshops for as little as one person up to 20. 20 is a good number. And we can do it digitally. We can do it in person. My prices are custom for businesses based on what you need and how many people are attending. And they're very fair and competitive. Because improv is very much we don't know what we're doing, just because we don't necessarily have the content doesn't mean we don't have a format. So the format that I follow is I'm very interested in knowing what your focus as a business is, what you want. And then that is what I plug into my formulas and lets me know what we need to do and how we need to do it. So the more I know about you and the more I know about what you're looking for and what you need, all that does is just help reinforce and build what I have more succinctly and make it stronger, honestly. So I could do custom workshops. I have some that are ready to go at the drop of a hat, standard, average things. So I'm very flexible in what I'm able to provide. Let's see, anything else specifically to say? If you would like to get in contact with me, my email is findingparallels@gmail.com. My website is findingparallels.com. And there are ways to communicate with me on there as well. So I'm out there. I'm available. I'm not difficult to get in contact with. If I don't respond immediately, I will get back to you. But I'd love to make this happen. If you aren't a business, if you're just an individual, and this is something that you're curious about, as COVID will wind down eventually, and people are more comfortable getting back into the face-to-face encounters, I will be putting together group workshops again. So we'll move from the digital space to the real physical space. But I can do one-on-ones. Like I said, it can work variety of means. So please don't feel hesitant to reach out and ask me any questions. I love questions. So that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, so I'll put all the information is down in the description for you guys to look at. If you didn't get all that, you can just look it down below. So thank you all for listening. I really appreciated your time. And Bryce, thank you for coming on. I loved hearing about your story and what you do to bring value to people.
Well, thank you. I've really enjoyed it as well. I appreciate you.
Yep, thank you.